Welcome to my garden studio. Today I want to discuss designing within a square. So we're going to create a square, and I'm going to be using my trusted ruler, just a piece of wood, and then I'm going to be using charcoal and heavy gauge charcoal. So this charcoal is, I would say, 8 millimeters. And you get it in different sizes, of course, as you know. And we're using this heavy gauge charcoal, creating an abstract painting, starting with a very, very odd color, just a wash of yellow. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm creating a square. Just going to get, I've got a mark on my ruler right there and there. So I'm going to create this square. I really want you to have fun with this project. It's just a fun project. It's going to be an abstract, and try and let your mind go. Try and let your mind run with it. So I'm going to put the ruler aside and start with my charcoal. I love working charcoal in acrylic because what happens is it ends up to be a blending medium. I'm giving myself a very strong line here. Got the noises in the garden at the background, got a gardener in the garden digging around, and of course making some noise, so I hope it doesn't distract from you. Yeah. You create that square like that. Quite a heavy charcoal. And the whole idea is to get to a point where we are designing a very abstract concept inside a square. So I wouldn't even know where to start. Just begin. It's fun. Just begin. Get some ideas. You know, that's not an F. That's a shape, and we're going to work within these shapes. So I'm kind of working across this way. I don't like the idea that this looks like an F, so what I'm going to do is create another shape there. And of course the charcoal is going to break. I'm putting a lot of charcoal down because I want this to lift up when we start putting the acrylic in. So I'm going to just put some mark down there, like that. Really has no form at the moment. It's more of a decorative concept. Some curvy lines. Just let your mind go. You know, have fun with it. You know, think about it as a fun thing. The whole idea is just to have fun. You know, and abstract is non-representative. You can't name it. You can't name the object. It's using line, and it's using shape, and it's using form, and the elements of art being the most basic. Really an opportunity to create stuff more decorative, maybe you could say. Decorative. There we go. I'm just looking at open spaces and saying, okay, well, how are we going to fill the space? And then take it from there, you know? It's a real opportunity to express yourself without being too precious about the naming the object. The other thing that can be said about abstract art is it's using material. It's the absolute use of material. So we are now going with acrylic paint, white acrylic paint, on top of a yellow ground with heavy charcoal lines. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fill up those gaps in between, and see what happens with regard to the blending of the acrylic and the charcoal the charcoal lines. And once we do that, I'm going to spray a sealer over the top of everything so that it holds the acrylic together, because the acrylic is loose. The acrylic, I mean the charcoal is loose. So the charcoal being loose is going to mean that it has to be sealed, or it has to be fixed to the surface. So you can hear the doves in the background. What I'm doing, and I've actually switched brushes to a smaller brush so that I can get into all these little gaps. What we would say is I'm painting negatively here. I'm painting the negative shape. In other words, I'm painting the yellow, the original background yellow color. And what's happening is the acrylic is pulling the charcoal off the surface. And that's what I want, because I want it to be like a grey tonal painting. This is all going to dry. When it's dry, I can do a second coat and make it even lighter, more accentuated in terms of the tone. So the issue, when you're dealing with abstract, you're dealing with things like the dot, the line, then the shape. Line makes a shape, and then the form, and then the abstraction of it would be going into texture. So you can see there's quite a lot of texture happening on this painting as we speak. So you want to leave that texture behind. You want to leave it behind. You don't want to take it away, flatten it, or make a pretty picture out of it. It's not about a pretty picture. It's more like a decoration and an exercise when you get tired of doing the real nameable piece of work. So we're just going to carry on. I'm going to just carry on with this now. Watching it all the time, getting the smudgy lines coming in from the charcoal and mixing up with the acrylic paint. The really cool thing about abstract painting is that you are free to do whatever you want to, because it's not a recognizable painting. We're not trying to paint a painting of a tree or a landscape. All I'm doing is experimenting with my imagination, and that's really the cool part about it. It's like real fun. You can do whatever you want to do. There's no judgment or criticism to it, and it ends up to be a demonstration of one's creativity. Not a pretty picture, not supposed to be flowers or landscape or anything. It's just an exercise with material, using your material. So all we're doing now, all I'm doing is using acrylic paint and charcoal. And the yellow is a starting point, like a ground. So now I've got my greys and my negative shapes happening there, and I'm going to let that dry and come back with more white, which will give me another dimension to the painting. The nice part about an abstract painting is you can actually do it any way you want to, as you know. Like you would imagine that being on your wall. Could be like just as an accent piece on the wall in the lounge. Let's take it to the next level. What I'm demonstrating here is a basic concept of using line, shape, tone, and a the ability to paint whatever you want to paint. Give you an idea of the abstraction, just using a normal PVA, again, acrylic paint, and giving myself another dimension on some of these areas. So rather large brush, and painting up these areas that need to be highlighted. So you've got a tonal change. Remember, we started with yellow, and now it's gone tonally, it's gone to a dark and a light white, and it's really just opening up and having fun with it. Really just let your mind go. So we got a finished kind of painting. There's a finished painting of what we're looking at, and it's completely abstract. No apples, no trees, no recognizable objects, just using tone and light and dark. So I think we're coming to the end of this demonstration. What I would like to encourage you to do is start with a square and start with charcoal and start putting marks on, and it doesn't matter where your marks are. And then what we do is we just take a white acrylic and we start blending the work together, and you end up with a piece of work that is, possible. Maybe it's throwaway. A lot of work is throwaway, but it's an exercise, and that's the main thing. Concentrating on the elements of art, the fundamentals of art. I think I'm going to call this video the fundamentals of art, or the beginning of art. It's not all the fundamentals, of course, but it's the starting point of working with material and just playing around, just having fun, just playing around, Something very interesting is happening here. I've started to dust off the acrylic with a dry brush, not actually thinking about any aspect of it. And what it's doing is it's softening everything. It's taking all the dark marks off, as you can see. So I'll show you close up. I'm dusting off the dark marks there, and the acrylic is semi-dry, and what's going on here is the charcoal is coming off as if it's a dust. So I'm just going to dust it off, and there's my final painting. I didn't even think about that. I didn't even realize that possibility. So what we're demonstrating here is the skinning of a fine blue with water over the top of the painting, and creating a completely different feel or dimension to the painting. So it's becoming bluer, and we're picking up like a really amazing tonal change to the painting, and I love it. It's so lovely. It's so cool. Got a square in here. So now imagine cutting the painting. We're actually trimming it down to this point here, where we've got a square like that, and that's a finished painting. It can sit on the wall. You can show it. Oh man, looking at the camera now, and it's like really nice. I love it. Okay, see you in the next video.